Recording. And I'd like to welcome you all to our Lunch Club Travel Edition, where for this month we're doing railroads. So this week we are looking at railroads across the world. So a pretty simple topic, but as shown in the image in our daily emails, there's maybe some places where you may have not thought of there being railroads and trains and things of that nature. So Lou, thank you so much for presenting this. There'll be no trivia today, so it'll be videos and discussions, but just making sure we keep the time in mind. But Lou, take it away.
Great. Well, we're so excited to talk about railroads across the world. So let's get her going. All right. So this is a little bit about the history of trains and railroads. And I think this was an invention that was not originated in America. Let's find out for sure.
Today, it is hard to imagine our lives without trains and railways. The invention of the steam locomotive has been a major turning point in the history of humanity. The first railway lines appeared in England at the beginning of the 19th century during the Industrial Revolution. In that moment, there was a huge need for transportation of goods and materials from one city to another. As a result, from that point on, many people were hired to build new railway tracks and operate them all over the world. Over time, travel conditions began to improve, and trains became faster and safer. The first rudimentary form of railway was the diolkos, a paved trackway built by ancient Greeks where today is the Corinth Canal. This about 7 kilometers long trackway was operated from around 600 BC until the middle of the 1st century AD. Wheeled vehicles
We're talking about hundreds, thousands, years.
pulled by men and animals ran in grooves in limestone, which provided the track element, preventing the wagons from leaving the intended route. The diolkos saved ships sailing from the Ionian Sea to the Aegean Sea, a dangerous sea journey round the Peloponnese. The oldest operational railway is the Reichszug, a funicular railway at the Hohensalzburg fortress in Austria, documented for the first time in 1515. The line originally used wooden rails and a hem haulage rope and was operated by human or animal power through a treadwheel. Around the year 1550 began the use of wagonways with wooden rails and horse-drawn traffic to facilitate transportation of ore tubs to and from mines. Minecarts became popular in Europe, and miners called the wagons hunde, dogs, from the noise they made on the tracks. In 1726 was built the Cozy Arch, the world's first large masonry railway bridge in the world, for the Tenfield Wagonway in northern England. It is also the oldest surviving single-arch railway bridge in the world. In the late 1760s, plates of cast iron began to be fixed to the upper surface of wooden rails, which increased their durability and load-bearing ability, marking the beginning of the era of metal rails. In 1793 was built in England the Finchley Tunnel, considered the first railway tunnel in the world. It remained in use until 1933, when the railway closed and was sealed up in 1977. In 1784, William Murdoch, an employee of the famous Scottish inventor James Watt, built a steam carriage. The first full-scale working railway steam locomotive was built in the United Kingdom in
Isn't that an amazing device?
1804 by Richard Trevithick, a neighbor of William Murdoch. On the 21st of February 1804, the world's first steam-powered railway journey took place when Trevithick's steam locomotive hauled the train along a tramway in South Wales. Trevithick's locomotive never got beyond the experimental stage because it was too heavy for the cast iron track in use at that time. The first commercially successful steam locomotive was Matthew Murray's wreck locomotive Salamanca, built in 1812. This was followed in 1813 by the locomotive Puffing Billy, the first successful locomotive running by adhesion only, and the oldest locomotive still in existence, now on display in the Science Museum in London. In the following years, the design of the locomotives continued to improve, although it was used both horsepower and steam power on different runs. In 1829, George Stephenson built the locomotive Rocket, which won the Rainhill Trials, also setting a speed record of 47 kilometers per hour. In 1830 was opened the Liverpool and Manchester Railway, the first public railway which used only steam locomotives all the time without animal power. It marked the beginning of the first steam passenger service. The line had the first timetable for passengers and proper stations with ticketing offices and platforms, and went on to prove the viability of rail transport. In 1837, Robert Davidson built the first known electric locomotive powered by batteries. However, the limited power from batteries prevented its general use, and it was destroyed by railway workers who saw it as a threat to their job security. The world's first urban underground railway was the Metropolitan Railway in London, which began operations on the 10th of January 1863. It was worked by steam trains, and despite the creation of numerous vents, was unhealthy and uncomfortable for passengers and operating staff. In the late 1860s began to appear the first steel rails replacing the iron rails. Steel rails were lasting several times longer than the iron ones and made heavier locomotives possible. Before dining cars in passenger trains were common, a rail passenger's option for meal service in transit was to eat at one of the roadhouses often located near the railroad's water stops. The first dining car was introduced in England in 1879, and by the mid-1880s, dedicated dining cars were a normal part of long-distance trains. Werner von Siemens constructed in 1881 in Lichterfelde near Berlin the first electric tram line supplied by running rails. In 1891, the track was equipped with an overhead wire and the line was extended. In 1891, the first practical AC electric locomotive was designed by Charles Brown using three-phase AC for long-distance power transmission. In 1912 was operated the first diesel locomotive in Switzerland, and during the 1920s they were improved, beginning to be used more and more often in several countries. In 1938 was set the world speed record for a steam locomotive by the Mallard, which reached a speed of 203 km per hour. However, in the first 20 years after the war, the steam locomotives were replaced on the main routes in Europe and North America by diesel and electric engines. The first electrified high-speed rail, Shinkansen, was introduced in 1964 between Tokyo and Osaka in Japan. Since then, high-speed rail transport, functioning at speeds up and above 300 km per hour, has been built in more developed countries. In 1984 was opened the first commercial maglev system between the Birmingham International Airport and the nearby Birmingham International Railway Station, but was closed after only 11 years because of the problems with the electronic systems. In 2007 was set the speed world record for a conventional wheeled passenger train by the Francis TGV of 575 km per hour. A new record was set in 2015 when Japan's experimental maglev train L0 series achieved a top speed of 603 km per hour on a magnetic levitation track. In September 2018, the world's first commercial hydrogen-powered passenger train entered service in Lower Saxony, Germany. The trains developed by Alstom are using a hydrogen fuel cell which emits no carbon dioxide.
Any thoughts, Lou, on the video? And then ours from our seniors? That was so interesting, from wood to iron to steel to electric to hydrogen fuel.
You know what amazed me, Alex, is how little of that
When
I
I
knew.
caught them,
I didn't
yeah,
know.
you need about a bigger.
I didn't know any of that beforehand. I wonder, is that because the train was not invented in America? That's why we don't teach about it? Like, I had no idea about this thing in Greece 2,000 years ago. That's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Or I never knew about trains started that long ago. I mean, that's
Me too.
crazy. We had I had no idea of any of this.
What did you all find interesting from the video?
Everything that Lou just mentioned, I would ditto. I knew nothing about all of that.
It's quite amazing, right? Just how what humans can do, right?
Absolutely.
And how trains are really not, de-emphasized in America. That, I mean, none of those records are held in America. None of those inventions came from America. It's like the train is really a gap in our
Mhm.
in our transportation portfolio here.
And
Yeah.
I don't know which museum downtown on the mall or anywhere would feature some of the things shown in this video.
Mm.
And
Yeah, it's a vast world out there. I mean, there's so much history with everything. So
Well, no,
it's
actually, I think the remodel is remodeled like 20 years ago. The American History Museum, I think it has trains in it now. I don't know if anyone's. I was there a couple years ago. I'm pretty sure there's trains there.
oh,
yeah, it might be that might be a good place to look. But
mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know we learned about the National Railroad Foundation the last session we did together. So they definitely have a lot of information about the history of trains here in the US. But yeah, it's just so interesting, right? Thank you so much for sharing, Yvonne.
Thank you.
hmm So this is a shorter video, but this is how the world's first metro system was built. So when they mention London in the video, this is a more in-depth look. So we're in Europe right now, you guys.
Mhm.
It was the dawn of 1863, and London's not yet opened subway system, the first of its kind in the world, had the city in an uproar. Digging a hole under the city and putting a railroad in it seemed the stuff of dreams. Pub drinkers scoffed at the idea, and a local minister accused the railway company of trying to break into hell. Most people simply thought the project, which cost more than $100 million in today's money, would never work. But it did. On January 10, 1863, 30,000 people ventured underground to travel on the world's first subway on a 4-mile stretch of line in London. After 3 years of construction and a few setbacks, the Metropolitan Railway was ready for business. The city's officials were much relieved. They'd been desperate to find a way to reduce the terrible congestion on the roads. London, at the time the world's largest and most prosperous city, was in a permanent state of gridlock, with carts, costermongers, cows, and commuters jamming the roads.
Oh my
It had been a
goodness.
Victorian visionary, Charles Pearson, who first thought of putting railways under the ground. He'd lobbied for underground trains throughout the 1840s, but opponents thought the idea was impractical, since the railroads at the time only had short tunnels under hills. How could you get a railway through the center of a city? The answer was a simple system called cut and cover. Workers had to dig a huge trench, construct a tunnel out of brick archways, and then refill the hole over the newly built tunnel. Because this was disruptive and required the demolition of buildings above the tunnels, most of the line went under existing roads. Of course, there were accidents. On one occasion, a heavy rainstorm flooded the nearby sewers and burst through the excavation, delaying the project by several months. But as soon as the Metropolitan Railway opened, Londoners rushed in to ride the new trains. The Metropolitan quickly became a vital part of London's transport system. Additional lines were soon built, and new suburbs grew around the stations. Big department stores opened next to the railroad, and the railway company even created attractions, like a 30-story Ferris wheel in Earl's Court to bring
Just like over here.
in tourists by train. Within 30 years, London's subway system covered 80 kilometers, with lines in the center of town running in tunnels, and suburban trains operating on the surface, often on embankments. But London was still growing, and everyone wanted to be connected to the system. By the late 1880s, the city had become too dense with buildings, sewers, and electric cables for the cut and cover technique, so a new system had to be devised. Using a machine called the Great Head Shield, a team of just 12 workers could bore through the earth, carving deep underground tunnels through the London clay. These new lines, called tubes, were at varying depths, but usually about 25 meters deeper than the cut and cover lines. This meant their construction didn't disturb the surface, and it was possible to dig under buildings. The first tube line, the City and South London, opened in 1890 and proved so successful that half a dozen more lines were built in the next 20 years. This clever new technology was even used to burrow several lines under London's river, the Thames. By the early 20th century, Budapest, Berlin, Paris, and New York had all built subways of their own. And today, with more than 160 cities in 55 countries using underground rails to combat congestion, we can thank Charles Pearson and the Metropolitan Railway for getting us started on the right track. When we make lessons about the innovations that have changed the world, we often wonder, what's next? Which one of our young subscribers?
Lou, any thoughts? And then our seniors? How amazing.
Yeah, probably just more of the same. You know, we don't learn about this in America because these inventions didn't start here. I had no idea about that with London. And yeah, that's incredible.
20 years. Did you see how many lines they built in 20 years? Like that's so much progress. Like they really were, just building those things. You know what I'm saying? Any thoughts from our seniors? Anything new that she learned? But again, it's just amazing how they could devise and figure these things out and do new methods.
You know, one thing that struck me, I would love to see a picture. I know they didn't have movies at the time. But it's like, what are the streets like when it's so busy with horse carts, cows, people? Like there's no cars. Cars didn't exist in the 1860s. Like what would a street even look like if it was so busy, it was gridlock, but they didn't even have cars? You know what I'm saying? That would be really, I wonder if there's pictures of that. There's got to be. With horse-drawn wagons,
Cows.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, they said London was the most prosperous and populous place at the time. So it's like DC here, but two times probably.
I had no idea that London and England played that great a part in the success of the railroad and the trains. I didn't know that.
Well, I guess
Same here.
I guess London was the center of the world's economy up until what? Up until when? World War I or World War II?
World War II, 1900, somewhere around
Yeah, so like the whole Industrial Revolution period, it was all centered in England, and so I guess it wouldn't. I guess it shouldn't be surprising for us.
But it certainly makes those connections, right? Wow. So Lou, I'm hearing all the different countries. I hope you may have ridden some of these railways or trains. So I'm looking forward to some of these other ones, such as this one, Jungfraubahn, the story of Europe's highest railway. So we're going to get a close-eye view for this one, folks.
Hello and grüezi. It's February 2020, back in the days when international
This is right before COVID.
travel was still a thing, and I'm at a railway station in Switzerland. Now, as you may have spotted, two of my favourite things to make a video about are railways and mountains, but usually I'm forced to choose one or the other because, like James May says, trains can't really go up hills. Or can they? Here in Switzerland, they don't really listen to me or James May. Welcome to Europe's highest railway. This is Interlaken, a traditional alpine resort town that sits at the bottom of the majestic Bernese Alps and nestles between two beautiful lakes, which is frankly the minimum number of beautiful lakes you'd expect from a town whose name literally means between lakes.
Oh, that water, oh my goodness.
From a town whose name literally means between lakes.
Wouldn't this view be amazing right here? Look at that water. Wow.
Interlaken calls itself the Swiss capital of adventure sports, and you can try hang gliding, skydiving, and all kinds of other ways to overpay for some fleeting excitement, which is why we've come to the railway station, where we're going to overpay for a whole day of excitement. This is the Berner Oberlandbahn, also known as the Bob. And while most trains leaving Interlaken head either east or west to follow the gentle route along the valley, this one turns directly south and heads straight at the mountain. The Bob has been doing this since 1890, when steam engines would fight their way up to the terminus of Grindelwald at a height of 1,034 metres. For British viewers, that's nearly 3 times higher than the highest national rail station. For Dutch viewers, that's the highest hill you've ever seen, multiplied by 1,034. And for Swiss viewers, that's nothing. So we're going to get off at Lauterbrunnen and change onto a train that goes much higher. And that means getting on the yellow and green train of the Wengen Alpbahn. This thing does not mess around. I mean, I said it was a train, but it almost feels like we're taking off. And as you can imagine, the views.
Oh my goodness, they're actually going uphill. Like, that's amazing.
I mean, I said it was a train, but it almost feels like we're taking off. And as you can imagine, the views are about to get pretty special. Construction work on the Wengen-Altbahn started in 1891, the year after the Bob opened, and it was completed a year later. To get up these incredibly steep gradients, it uses a rack and pinion system. In other words, there is a cogwheel underneath the train that engages with the teeth of a serrated third rail to give it extra grip and traction, which of course also helps with safety on the way back down.
Well, have you ever thought about being a third rail in the, for trains? That's amazing. Never thought of that.
It's a system used by many mountain railways around the world, but this one is the longest. And one of the reasons the Wengen-Altbahn is so long is that it doesn't just go up the mountain, it also goes back down the other side. So we're getting off in the middle, 2,061 meters above sea level
Pretty
at
high.
Kleine Scheidegg.
1,000
Partly
meters
because it's
above
the
sea
highest station on the Wengen-Altbahn, but mostly because it's the lowest station on the railway that we've actually come to see. And this is it, the Jungfraubahn. It's named after the Jungfrau mountain, which is that beast up there. And in the most literal way possible, I think you can see where this is going. The railway was the brainchild of a Swiss entrepreneur called Adolf Guyer-Zeller, who received planning permission for it in 1894, 2 years after the completion of the Wengen-Altbahn. And what he had been permitted to do was completely insane. This map of the project from 1903 shows the already completed section up to the Eiger Glacier, followed by the start of a tunnel as far as the temporary Rohrstock station at 2,520 meters. From here, the plan was to continue tunneling through solid alpine rock under the Eiger itself to Eismeer station at 3,153 meters, where a window would be cut out of the side of the mountain just so passengers could stop and admire the view. And then the tunnel would barrel upwards, underneath the Mönch and through a station at Jungfraujoch, before finally reaching a terminus directly below the summit of the Jungfrau.
4,166 meters. Wow. Amazing.
Where a lift, or an elevator for American viewers, would pop passengers out above ground at a record-breaking 4,166 meters above sea level. Now, I famously love climbing mountains, but these altitudes are something else. By the time we get to even the first station, I am already on higher and possibly colder ground than I have ever been before. And these guys are up here building a railway in a tunnel through solid rock upwards in the 1890s. Nothing like this had ever been attempted before. Guyer-Zeller was a visionary and a pioneer. Or in other words, he was a man with a ludicrous money-making idea and just happened to be rich enough already that he could get other people to make it happen even if it was going to kill some of them. In the end, sadly, Adolf himself went first, dying of a heart attack in 1899, and he never saw the completion of his dream. But on the plus side, he avoided having to face some increasingly dissatisfied employees, who went on strike on 6 separate occasions, and at one point, management tried to reduce staff turnover among the mostly Italian workforce with a bottle of red wine per worker per day. Progress doesn't seem to have accelerated after this, and money began to run out, and in 1912, 16 years into a 7-year project, it was decided that the railway would be cut short, and construction would stop here at Jungfraujoch, which was still, and is still, the highest railway station in Europe. And yes, that means Europe's highest railway station is, bizarrely, underground. But it would be a shame to come all the way up here without seeing the view. To be fair to Guyer-Zeller, his legacy is not just a money-making tourist trap. The railway opened the door for all kinds of scientists to come up here and do high-altitude research into important stuff like astronomy, meteorology, glaciers, and medicine. And even if you are just a tourist, it is pretty incredible to experience the mountains in a way that's normally reserved only for serious mountaineers with serious mountaineering equipment. But now, I'll have to leave you there, because I've got some very important scientific research to do. If you'd like to travel on Europe's highest railway,
The Jungfraubahn. Never heard of it.
Yeah, that was interesting, Alex. You know, when you go to I never even heard of this place, but you know, some of these wealthy countries, I guess back in the day, that was a pretty wealthy area, maybe. They did some pretty outrageous projects. Like I know in China nowadays, they're doing some pretty outrageous projects for tourists. And this looks like a pretty outrageous project to me.
Hmm. The highest point is underground. How funny was that line? The highest point was underground. Any thoughts from you guys? Anything from this video?
I liked the view when he got to the last stop and
Uh-huh.
it went out on the deck and you could see all those mountains and the snow. It just took me to a place, like in my head. I think I would love to see that.
Like, look at these people. They definitely
Mhm.
get this experience right here.
Up in the sky like that.
Oh, beautiful, right?
Hmm.
But in America though, we can go. You ever hear of Pikes Peak outside of Denver? You can drive up that, and you're over 14,000 feet, which is 2,000 feet higher, or 3,000 feet higher than that. Than the picture, than this one in Switzerland. So we have places like that in the U.S. And I even think it's free to drive up there. I went
But
up there. Go ahead.
you won't see that many mountain peaks though. That's what
Yeah.
I like. You could see all those mountain tops. It was
Mm.
just so beautiful and like out of the world type of feeling I got looking at that.
Oh, me too. The
Mhm.
video took me somewhere else.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing, Gracie.
Uh-huh.
I wanted to make a comment on the horse-drawn little train. They used to have one of them on Canal Street in New Orleans before Katrina. I think after that, I think the guy got killed in Katrina. I used to run that up and down. It was a tourist attraction.
Oh, not the horses.
Yeah, it was a good tourist attraction. But
Oh,
I found, I'm interested in trains anyhow because my uncle used to be on the railroad, and he was a porter on the train, and my great uncle, and
yeah, I
I used
remember
to
you
listen
sharing.
to his stories. So anyhow, thank you for letting me share.
Oh, thank you for yes, no, for bringing that experience. I remember you sharing that last time, so thank you so much, Anne. Lou, here's the next one. Best African Railway. So we went from Europe, we're going to Africa.
Several African countries have significantly invested in developing and expanding efficient and modern railway systems that connect cities and towns, contributing to economic growth and sustainability. The railway systems play an important role in the transportation of people and goods and are often the most efficient and environmentally friendly way to move large volumes of cargo over long distances. In this video, we are going to cover the top 10 African countries with the best railway systems.
Go.
Number 10. Zimbabwe. The Zimbabwe railway system has played a crucial role in transporting people and goods across the country. The Zupco trains, introduced 2 years ago, post-COVID-19, have made transport between Harare, the capital city, and Bulawayo much easier. Number 9. Ethiopia. In Ethiopia, rail transport exists within the National Railway Network of Ethiopia, which currently consists of 3 electrified standard gauge railway lines, which are the Addis Ababa Djibouti Railway, the Weldia Mekele Railway, and Awash Weldia Railway. There is also an urban light rail system in the capital city of Addis Ababa called the Addis Ababa Light Rail. Number 8. Tanzania. The Tanzanian rail system is currently undergoing massive revolution, including expansion and modernization projects. Very recently, Tanzania conducted a test on the new electric train with a top speed of 160 kilometers per hour from Dar es Salaam to Morogoro. The development of the railway system in Tanzania aims to improve transportation options, connecting major cities and boost economic growth in Tanzania. Number 7. Senegal. The Senegal's railway system is one of the most advanced on the continent, playing an important role in driving economic growth. It connects Dakar, the capital city of Senegal, with various regions, hence facilitating the transportation of goods and passengers. Senegal has continuously invested in expanding and modernizing its railway network to further enhance connectivity and support economic development. Kenya. The Kenyan rail system, especially the standard gauge railway, has revolutionized transportation between Nairobi, the capital city, and Mombasa, the port city of Kenya. The standard gauge railway has significantly reduced travel time, offering comfortable and efficient transportation option. Furthermore, the railway has played a crucial role in boosting trade and tourism, contributing to Kenya's economic growth. Number 5. Morocco. Morocco has one of the most modern railway systems on the African continent. The country has massively invested in rapid rail systems that have massively improved transportation and reduced congestion within major cities like Casablanca and Rabat. In 2018, the country launched Al Borak, a high-speed rail that connects Casablanca and Tangier, offering a swift and comfortable travel experience. For Nigeria, the Nigerian railway system is steadily improving with ambitious plans for expansion and modernization. The development of the Lagos-Kano railway line showcases the country's commitment to improving rail transportation. Nigeria is continuously investing to upgrade its railway system to enhance connectivity, improve travel efficiency, and boost economic growth. Number 3. Egypt. In recent years, the Egyptian railway system has undergone massive upgrade, connecting major cities along the River Nile. Cairo, the capital city of Egypt, was the first African city to install a metro system. Number 2. South Africa. The South African railway network spans across major cities, rural areas, and ports, and is renowned for its reliability and connectivity. The Metro Rail, a state-owned commuter rail service, operates 2,228-kilometer-long network with 471 stations. In major cities like Johannesburg, Cape Town, Durban, Pretoria, and Port Elizabeth, you will find tramways that further enhance transportation options for the population. Number 1. Algeria. Algeria tops the list of the top 10 African countries with the best railway systems. Algeria boasts of an extensive and well-maintained railway network. Located in the capital city of Algiers, the Metro de Algiers consists of a line with 10 stations, and an additional 9 stations are under construction. Algeria has massively invested in high-speed trains, enhancing passenger travel and connectivity.
did you all know that these, or think about how, these African countries have these advanced railway systems? Any thoughts? Lou, they mentioned Tanzania, Kenya, some other places as well. So,
Yeah, Alex, I got a couple thoughts about the Tanzania line. Yeah, the country's really proud of their trains. A lot of that,
Mhm.
a lot of that was by the former president. I'm forgetting his name right now. But he invested a lot in the country. And in the line between Kenya, Nairobi, and Mombasa,
mhm.
one of the most famous railway stories in the world comes from that. Does anybody ever see the movie The Ghost in the Darkness?
No.
You haven't seen it?
Mm-mm.
It starred Val Kilmer and Michael Douglas. I mean, two top Hollywood stars. It was a major motion picture, and it was a story about two man-eating lions. And yeah, it was they were building the railway from Mombasa to Nairobi in the late 1800s, and as they were building a bridge across one of the rivers, two man-eating lions started eating the crew.
Oh,
And
no.
yeah, and get this, because people were tenting out. They ate a total of 127 workers.
Oh, no.
127 workers. I think that's the number. And what would happen is people would be sleeping in their tents, and the lion would clamp down on their neck. So they would die in total silence because they couldn't scream out or anything. And then the lion would drag them out. Alex, is there a second? Because this is such a famous story. It's like a globally famous story. I got it queued up. Is there time for me to share like a 2-minute video on The Ghost in the Darkness?
Maybe after these two, I'm not sure. We have
Okay.
10 minutes left.
Okay.
Alex, does anybody know the African country that President Biden went to just before he left office, and the United States was supporting train travel between, it was within the country. I don't know what country though, within the country, between cities. And he took a delegation over, and I remember anyway, I won't go too much into it because I don't know the name of the country. But yeah, the United States helped this country build the railroads, and it was a grant to the country. Yeah, does anybody remember that just before President Biden left office?
I would definitely Google that, see what comes up, Gerald.
Yeah, see what comes up. Yeah,
Make
but the
sure you-
United States, supported the train travel between cities in this country. I sure wish I could remember. I have to Google the country.
Oh yeah, use that Safari. You got this, Geraldine.
Yeah,
Okay?
I got that.
Yeah, and see what comes up.
Uh-huh.
Wow, this one's a little longer, but now we're into Asia. So Thailand to China. Hope you guys enjoy. Gonna play as much of this as we can, okay? Just to get a view.
Betting $15 billion on its first ever high-speed train. This huge project will connect Bangkok all the way to China. It's not just about faster travel, but about reshaping trade, tourism, and the future of Southeast Asia. The project is years behind schedule and full of challenges. Stick around to find out why this train matters, what's holding it back, and how it could change the region forever. Before we speed ahead with Thailand's high-speed rail journey, make sure to subscribe to stay. The idea to build this high-speed rail in Thailand didn't just come out of nowhere. It all started when China announced its Belt and Road Initiative. Back in the early 2010s, China came up with a massive infrastructure strategy. They wanted to link Asia, Africa, and Europe with roads, ports, and most importantly, railways. One of the core projects was a Pan-Asia high-speed rail network. That means trains running from Kunming in southern China, through Laos, and straight into Thailand, eventually reaching all the way down to Malaysia and Singapore. Thailand sat right in the middle of the map. Skipping it would mean rerouting the entire line. So, when China came in with an offer to connect, Thailand jumped on board. But it wasn't just about joining China's plans. Thailand had its own reasons too. Its rail network was outdated. Most of the trains still ran on narrow gauge tracks built a century ago, crawling at speeds of 50 to 70 kilometers per hour. To go from Bangkok to the northeast could take 9 to 12 hours. And forget freight. Logistic companies preferred trucks over trains because rail was just too slow. Meanwhile, Thailand was trying to move beyond just tourism and agriculture. It wanted to become a logistics hub for mainland Southeast Asia. The location was perfect, as China suggested the railway line would border Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia, and just sit north of Malaysia. But without fast, modern connections, that potential was stuck on paper. So, in 2014, after years of discussion, Thailand signed a memorandum with China to co-develop a high-speed rail line. The goal is to connect Bangkok to Kunming via Nhon Khai and Vientiane. It would be part of a larger central corridor of the Kunming-Singapore rail route. For the first 3 years after the railway opens, China will operate and maintain the system. Then, from years 4 to 7, both countries will co-manage it together. It will be sort of a transition phase. After that, China will step back completely. Thailand will take full control of the operations, and China will just help with technical advice when needed. China also agreed to train Thai workers and engineers during this period, so that by the time the handover happens, local teams can run the entire system themselves. Now, there's one more factor that pushed Thailand to join this plan. Laos had already completed its part of the route. In 2021, the Boten-Vientiane Railway opened, with 414 kilometers of brand new standard gauge tracks built and funded mostly by China. It linked directly to China's existing rail network in Yunnan.
Up there, all the way down there. Wow.
And it was a great addition for both countries. After its completion, cargo and passengers could move across borders in hours instead of days.
360 kilometers per hour. Pretty fast.
Thailand didn't connect to that, it would be left behind. Its neighbours would get the trade, the investment, and the attention. So the pressure was not just from China, it was actually regional. Everyone else was moving, so Thailand had to catch up. Also, the economic numbers made sense. A modern high-speed rail link would cut travel time from Bangkok to Vientiane from 9 hours to just over 2. That means quicker delivery times, better supply chains, and easier access for Chinese tourists. And let's be real, China is not just building trains out of goodwill. These railways are strategic. Every line built deepens its economic influence in Southeast Asia. Once Thailand said yes to high-speed rail, the next thing they had to plan was how they were going to build this thing. Construction officially started in December 2017, with a plan.
Well, even with just this tidbit, isn't it amazing to see two countries work together and plan, so well together?
But Alex, China went all over Africa too and helped them to build some of those railway systems. That's one of the major projects that China was doing in Africa for these last many years.
Oh yeah, we'll be taking a look at another continent, and that's also occurring there as well. So, China really does have an influence on a lot of the world, not just
Yes, yes, they do.
But we're still far behind all of those countries as far as the railway is concerned. Because Amtrak and stuff, they haven't gone up to like high speeds. It still takes forever to get up from here to New York.
Yeah, it's that's why different people, different ideas, different outcomes, different everything. So, that's why, us as humans definitely got to stay together.
Hi, this is Stephanie. Can I ask a question to piggyback on that?
Yeah, you're here.
So I had heard earlier when they were talking, I think it was in one of the earlier videos that you showed, like maybe the first or second one, and they were talking about Japan specifically and their high-speed rail.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to ask if we, in the United States, where we have that. I ask specifically, years ago, I lived in Richmond, Virginia, and I was offered and accepted a job here in Washington, D.C. Having read an article in the Washington Post that said we were going to be getting high-speed rail. So that, and we had a station there in Richmond. So I was like, yay, I'll be able to stay at home and work in DC. So ended up my whole career not having high-speed rail at all, but I wondered whatever happened to that idea. Thanks for.
Oh no, thank you so much for bringing that up. And I always recommend you guys use Safari on your devices and to be able to, search and research the things that you want to learn. So I definitely recommend you do that. But currently the Amtrak ACELA is the fastest rail line currently, reaching 150 miles per hour. But there's a couple of projects in California, Las Vegas, as well, those areas. So yeah, there's definitely a few challenges with that because we are so huge. So that's what I see when I research that. But I would definitely recommend you use that Safari, use that browser to see some more information.
And I just found out the name of the African country that President Biden went and helped with the railway system was Angola. I remember when he went in December 2024, just after the election, but before Trump took office.
Well, good job for using those skills. I hope Ms. Stephanie.
So thank you for letting me share that.
Alex, they just opened a high-speed rail from the city I'm in here, West Palm Beach, to Orlando. It opened up just a couple of months ago, actually.
Okay, just definitely, I'll double check that. And I see there's a reaching it's not truly high speed rail. It says it's about 120, 125 miles per hour. High speed rail is more than 186 miles per hour, or 300 kilometers per hour. So that's not a high speed rail. It's just very close to it.
So we don't have a single high-speed rail then. If ACELA is only 160, you said, wasn't it? Or 150?
No, that it has to be over 186. So we haven't had any yet, but they are building or trying to build some here in the Northeast corridor and the California area. So definitely.
Yeah, it still takes about 2 days to get from here to California on a train.
Yeah. So well, again, they're thinking small for now, but hopefully in some lifetime, right?
And even the ACELA, I used to work in the Northeast and I had the option to take the ACELA, but it was so expensive compared to just the regular train.
Yeah, it's the fastest one. So of course it's going to be the most expensive.
But it wasn't even that much faster because it would make a number of stops. It had less stops, but it wasn't, that much better for the price. A lot of people didn't take it.
Well, that's why we look at other countries and we just get inspired, and hopefully something happens, right? You never know who this video might get to. So this is our last one. Again, thank you all so much for sharing and commenting, and we traveling the world today. So our last one, Luke, can you read it? You're muted, Lou.
Sorry, I had some pop-ups come up. The highest train in the Americas across the Andes in Peru is the Ferrocarril in Central Andino.
Yep.
Well, this will be interesting.
Yep. Central Railway. Hope you guys enjoy our last video. So we're going from Lima to... What do you see? It's amazing, right? Can you imagine traveling on this train right here? Look at that view. the system. Look at that. Look at that track down there. Isn't that amazing? It's the switchback. You see where they gotta switch the train tracks to the right one. You all see how they came from the right one and now they're going down the mountain? You all see that? Have you all ever heard of a dead end tunnel before?
Mm-mm.
Me neither.
Look like I wouldn't want to go in there.
Provides room for longer trains.
Mm.
Yeah. Look at this. This is 4,783 elevation. This tunnel right here. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? South America.
Mm-hmm.
Almost 16,000 feet. Look at the grass. Amazing. Yep, another switchback. So someone has to do that manually, I guess. Now they're going back down, I guess.
So
Oh,
that
back
little
up.
guy, he must have been on the train when they stopped and jumped off.
All right, that's a good point.
Uh-huh.
You see them getting back on, so that's totally right. So that was a close eye view. I mean, any thoughts, Lou? And then our seniors before we end for today on this video, but all the videos today. Again, hope you guys enjoy this journey around the world.
Oh, that looked like a rickety railroad. I wouldn't be taking that anytime soon.
No.
Those guys must have had nerves of steel to build those tracks beside the mountains. And I mean, that is scary. Yeah, I wouldn't want to ride that train either.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. I wouldn't either.
Any general thoughts for today? Anything surprising? Again, there's railroads across the world. You may not have thought about it. I certainly didn't before researching this session today. So there's so much out there. So hope you guys enjoyed.
I just wonder why America is so far behind in this space, you know? I mean, you're right, Alex. We don't have a single high-speed rail in the whole country. And we have some pretty solid corridors, right? I mean, DC, Philadelphia, New York, Boston. I mean, that's a serious corridor. You can, you know.
One of the fastest corridors that we have right now is from DC to Baltimore, the MOG train. That's pretty fast.
Yes,
How fast?
really
How fast does
fast.
that go? How fast does that go?
I don't know how fast it goes, but I know you can get up there in about 45 minutes.
Yeah, the MARC train is great. Again, it's still the fastest in the US right now is the Acela, which is 150 miles an hour. So, yeah, it's we'll get there, but there's a lot. America's very unique, I guess with our geography and things of that nature. But their plans is, again here, make sure you do your research, go on Google, go on Safari, look up these things to get that knowledge and, continue that lifelong learning. But they're talking about in the Midwest, so maybe Chicago to St. Louis, Texas, like Dallas, Houston, Fort Worth, and of course the Northeast Corridor. We might eventually have a train or railroad or road in America with speeds of 220 miles per hour, it says here. So maybe in the future, maybe not now, but definitely in the future, we'll get there.
Well, you know what, right here, according to Google, it says the SCMAGLEV project, if realized, would offer a 15-minute trip between Baltimore and DC and a 1-hour trip to New York, reaching speeds of 311 miles per hour using magnetic levitation technology.
Wow.
So I
They're
guess
talking
they
about
want to do it, but yeah.
They're talking about it. They're certainly looking. So
You know
it
what?
just takes some time.
They've
One
been
thing-
talking about it for quite some
For a
time.
long time, my whole lifetime.
Yeah.
One thing I like about train travel is how easy it is to get on the train. Like you get on at Union Station, you just get your ticket and you get on the darn train. It's so much harder to fly with all the, searches and all that stuff. So I would look forward to just being able to get on the trains easier if it was just a little bit faster.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Lou, for your words and your commentary and your knowledge for everything today. Maybe what was your favorite country's railroad system to end us on our session today? The favorite one or favorite video? Make sure you unmute yourself there.
Sorry about the
Mine was the railways in Africa and Asia,
Mm-hmm.
both of those continents.
Hey, Alex, I have Ghost in the Darkness queued up. It's 3 minutes. I know we're way over already. If I can maybe just leave it running.
Oh, I'd love to see it. Oh,
Okay.
Alex, you up for that?
Yeah, while you pull it out, any thoughts?
Yeah.
And then we will end right after the video.
yes. Thank you, Lou.
Okay, I'm going to share it. Here we go. Okay.
1800s, when the British controlled East Africa, they decided to build a railway system there.
In March of 1898, they commissioned a former British Army officer, John Henry Patterson, to come from India to East Africa to lay the permanent stone foundations for this bridge. And in March of 1898, he rode the train up from the coast in Mombasa to the Zavo River, where a camp of 3,000 railway workers was established to build these stone foundations.
The workers had no idea about the danger they were facing.
The railway crews, on the other hand, were virtually all brought into East Africa from India. And in Western India and southern Pakistan, where most of these workers originated, there were no large, dangerous carnivores that people had to protect themselves against. And so these naive workers basically set up camp in a very dangerous area without the safeguards that native Africans routinely employ to protect themselves. It was at that time that two big man-eating lions began falling on railway crews, attacking the camps at night, pulling men screaming and kicking out of their tents, and consuming them on the edges of camp and sending terror and chaos into the heart of this carefully orchestrated engineering operation.
These man-eating lions that Hollywood would later name The Ghost and The Darkness would wreak havoc for months, killing many workers.
Men became terrified. The railway crews eventually mutinied. There were threats against Patterson's life. The
have to go back. Yeah.
Left. They abandoned their work and took the
back.
train
Oh, yeah.
back to the coast and said, "We're not going back to work until these lions are gone." These lions outwitted Patterson and everyone else who was trying to kill them for almost 9 months before he was eventually successful in eliminating them. And it wasn't until December 9th, 1898 that he was eventually able to kill the first man-eater. And 3 weeks later, he was able to
the second tab from the top on the right, Lou.
The lions
tab from the
themselves have been at
top on the
Chicago's
right.
Field Museum since Colonel
top.
Patterson sold them for $5,000
I
in
can't see it.
1924. The colonel, who wrote about his exploits, estimated that 135 workers were mauled to death. But modern scientific tests done on the lions put that number closer to 35. As for why the lions came to develop
Hey Lou there, if you send me the link, I can share it in the next session, okay? So that way folks can see it.
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah,
sorry
and
guys.
it's
I'm
okay.
good.
Your connection's
guys.
also going out a little bit. So thank you, Lou, so much for presenting today. Let's all thank Lou, and I'll see you all at 1:30 for Module 1. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lou.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Enjoy today.
Bye, Lou.
Lou, they said
Lou.
those
So
lions
much.
are in the museum in Chicago, so I want to see what they look like.